So in this lesson, we're going to talk about how to find and use the discriminant, as well as what the discriminant actually is. So before we talk about the discriminant, we need to know about the quadratic formula. This is a formula that helps us to find the roots of a quadratic if we can't solve it by factoring or completing the square, because we know those two cases are very special. We spent a lot of time looking at them. But if I can't factor a quadratic or complete the square, I have the quadratic formula as an option. And we're going to dive into using this a lot more tomorrow. But in order for us to talk about the discriminant, we need to know what the quadratic formula is. Now, this is one of those things that's not going to be given to you. You do need to memorize it. And you'll notice this negative b over 2a, that part is the axis of symmetry. So some of this is already in your brain. We just have to add this extra piece in here. And like I said, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow. But we need to know about it in order to find the discriminant. So the discriminant is that part that's inside of the square root in our quadratic formula, that negative b minus 4ac. Excuse me, b squared minus 4ac. Brain is all over the place this morning. So that b squared minus 4ac is the discriminant. And what that's going to do is tell us how many roots or zeros or solutions we have and the nature of those roots of our quadratic. So let's talk about what I mean. So if the discriminant is a positive number, that b squared minus 4ac, if I simplify that and my number is positive, I'm going to end up with two real roots. That means I'll have two x-intercepts. If it is 0, that means we will have one real root or a double root, meaning it hits the x-axis with the vertex and bounces back off again. If the discriminant is negative, I'm not going to have any real roots at all. These are called imaginary roots, and we're going to get into that more. But what this means for our parabola is that it will never touch the x-axis. I'm never going to intersect and get any x-intercepts if the discriminant is negative. So I'm going to switch over to my document camera here. So our first one is asking us to find the discriminant and to determine the number of solutions or the number of roots that we would have for this quadratic. Started this video without a pencil. It was not smart. So the first thing I need to figure out is what A, B, and C are. So here A is 1, B is 6, and C is 4. And that was incredibly crooked. All right. So my discriminant is b squared minus 4 times a times c. So I'm going to substitute in my values for b, a, and c. So 6 squared gives us 36. 4 times 1 times 4 gives us 16. So 36 minus 16 gives us 20. It is a positive number. So since it's positive, that means we have two real roots. So this is my discriminant. And this is the number and nature of my roots. Let's go on to the next one. Now with this one, they were not nice. It is not equal to 0. So before I do anything, I need to make it equal to 0. So this is going to be 3x squared minus 2x plus 17 equals 0. So now I'm going to look for A, B, and C. A is 3, B is -2, and C is 17. So I've got B squared minus 4AC. And you'll notice I'm always substituting with parentheses just in case there's any negative numbers involved, which here there is. I also suggest you have a calculator on hand, but -2 squared means -2 times -2, which means it would be a positive 4. And 4 times 3 times 17 gives me -204 when my document camera unfreezes. There it is. So this is going to be -200. That is my discriminant. Now, since my discriminant is negative, I have no real roots. This also means that we have 2 imaginary. And we'll get into what that means a little bit more tomorrow and what an imaginary root looks like. But just know that we're not actually hitting the x-axis at all in a quadratic like this with a negative discriminant. All right, last but not least, I've got x squared plus 2x equals 1. Still not equal to 0, so I have to make sure I do that. Going to find A, B, and C. Now this negative sign out in front means that A is actually -1, B will be 2, and C is -1. Substituting into B squared minus 4AC. So I have 2 squared minus 4 times -1 times -1. 2 squared gives me 4. -4 times -1 gives me +4 times another -1 gives me -4 again, which is going to give me a discriminant of 0, which means I have 1 real root.